absolutely ridiculous. They'll believe anything. They'll believe anything. Are you starting to feel afraid again? I know. You were just starting to feel like everything was going back to normal, but now we have boosters and doses making you feel hopeless, politicians and media making you feel nervous. And what's the reason for all this craziness? Omicron. Right, welcome back everybody to the Mei Xiangfa channel. It is another beautiful Saturday afternoon in Taiwan. And we have our third guest, somebody I've grown quite fond of, someone who I think will give us some really great nuance and actually a really smart guy. So Beta, thank you for giving us your time. And maybe you can give us a quick introduction.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Happy to be here. I'm Beta, a Taiwanese. I'm living in Taiwan for 32 years. And in terms of my name history, it's pretty interesting. My name is Beta, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Beta, and my father's name is Alpha. So, by the way, my brother's name is Gamma. I would consider myself in terms of political position, a middle right. V for Vendetta is one of my favorite movie. Happy to be here to discuss this news with Richard.
Okay, great. And Abby, always a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, hi.
Right. Every single week now, right, on a Saturday. So
yeah, it's a very good experience.
Yeah. So we're really enjoying making these videos for you guys, and we hope you're enjoying our content. So please, can you give us a like, a share, a subscribe? Anything you can do will really help us. And yeah, the more you support us, the better job we can do. And we really hope one day to be able to pay someone to do the Chinese subtitles for us. So if you enjoy what we're doing, you appreciate the effort, please. What is it? 按赞分享订阅
如果你喜欢我们影片的话，请帮我们按赞分享订阅
All right, great. So let's get into our first topic of the three we're going to do today. So obviously, every week we start with a bit of an update about viruses and things. Really nice, fun, wholesome conversation, right? So I wanted to start by asking you guys a question.
Okay.
How would you define success when it comes to the people in charge of our health? So the government people, the CDCs, the FDAs. How would we define success?
Give us the better suggestion, or just give us many options that we can choose by ourselves?
Sure, but I'm more looking at outcomes. Like, how could you judge the success of the health system?
I would say the health system could make sure that the normal life goes on without any concerns about any potential health concerns.
Okay. So if we try to define this, would we say that we'd want to see people having longer lives?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And probably as well, not too many people dying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So have you guys heard of excess mortality before?
Excess mortality.
It's not like natural mortality, or?
Well, I think every year there is a certain amount of expected excess mortality. So they have their baseline number, and then every year there's some excess. People die, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're higher than the average?
Sometimes, yeah. And I think most years there is some excess mortality.
Okay.
But wouldn't that be a good way for us to look at health and to say how many people above the baseline are dying every year? And then we can see if they're doing a good job or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, makes some sense,
makes sense,
right?
that compared to the past.
Fantastic. So I've actually prepared most of this is from America. I'm also going to show you some stuff from the UK, just because this kind of information is a lot easier for me to find. Mm-hmm. So let's have a look at, firstly, the US. Okay, so this comes from usmortality.com. And if you look at this graph here, you've got the excess deaths, right? The green line is from 2020, and the blue line is from 2021. So what do you guys think when you see those two lines? Can you see that clearly better?
A little bit vague, but Yeah, so you say the green line is the 2020,
Yeah.
2021, and
No, the green line was last year, and the blue line is not complete yet. The
This
blue
year.
line is
so the excess mortality this year is higher than
so far, yeah,
Increasing all-time high.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's higher than last year, right?
Yeah.
So if we're looking at that and we're thinking to ourselves, how are they doing? Does that make sense? Now, we must also say here that this is not purely just COVID, right? So a lot of this number is cumulative. So it's going to be people dying from other causes, people dying from COVID. It's all kind of put together.
Okay.
But how does that look to you guys?
I'm not 100% sure, but if you say one line is from 2020 and the other one is from 2021, then how come the end of 2020 is the rate is pretty high and it drops significantly at the beginning of 2021? Just one.
At the beginning of 2021 or beginning of 2020 when it drops?
2021, yeah, because just
because the beginning of 2021 is the blue here.
That means like at the beginning.
Oh no,
at
they
the
restart at the beginning of every year.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, got it.
Yeah, so they look at this as on a yearly
okay,
basis.
got it.
Right?
So it's
Yeah.
not cumulative. Okay.
So try and make sure you're talking to the mic there. Yeah.
Okay.
So when you look at this, just what do you guys think? So obviously, I don't have all the answers for exactly how they do this. This is just from the government website, right? They show this figure every year. But just from what we can see, what do you guys think of the job that they seem to be doing?
Since
something
I mean, what
wrong?
would you expect to see? So obviously last year, I think we'd expect to see a big jump, right?
yeah,
Because last year was when COVID first came and we didn't know how to treat it. We didn't know how to deal with it. We didn't have vaccines at the beginning of the year. So I think last year, at least for me, just on my opinion, I'd expect to see a jump. And you see it here, right? You see the green line at the beginning was low.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
from like April, it really
March.
picked up and really went high, right?
Yeah.
So what would you guys expect to see this year?
I think it's better to be lower down or flattened because we got vaccine, right? And I think a vaccine can protect people being getting serious symptoms.
Sure. And also
Or-
they learned how to treat it, right? So not
Yeah.
just with the vaccines. I think also they learned, about how to use the ventilators. From what I understand, the
Yeah.
ventilators seem to not be, I'm not sure about this, but I've heard that actually it might not be the
Right.
best thing to be putting the critical people on ventilators. Okay, so that's the first picture. Then I've also found this for a different age group in the whole of the US, right? So this is the US 25 to 44 years old.
Wow.
Okay.
Now there, looking at this age, what would we expect? Because obviously people who are this age should be a bit healthier, right? So we'd
Yeah.
expect, I think, to see for older people, we'd expect to see big lines going up. But what would you expect to see for the younger people?
It really couldn't explain my idea before because I think COVID is target on old people, right? That's what they say, what they told us. People who are older than 50 years old, they might get higher risk to severe disease or symptoms.
So we'd expect to
But-
see something higher from the elderly people,
But,
but not as
young
bad
people,
for
yeah,
younger.
but I don't have any expectation for young
Sure.
people to see
Yeah.
that, right?
And as you can see, this comes from the CDC. And I also want to make clear that I'm not showing people this today to try and say the vaccines work or the vaccines don't work. I'm just looking at the job that these people are doing and trying to see what we think of that, right? So as we can see here, and it also looks like the lines are getting wider this
Yeah.
year. That's particularly worrying for me.
Starting from August.
So we might be able to look and see why, but that just on the face value, that looks a little bit worrying, right? Okay, then let's look at some other places in the US, right? So here's Vermont. Vermont's the place which got like the highest vaccines in the States. And you can see that there, I think because it's a small state, I couldn't actually find the 25 to 44-year-olds for this place, for some of them. So, but you can see there that even with the highest vaccination rate, we still see a similar trend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, we're not talking about vaccine effectiveness. We don't know exactly what these deaths are from. That's not our purpose today. We're just looking at some figures, right? Okay, so that's Vermont. Then if you look at a place like Idaho, I think has some of the least vaccinations. it looks like the same thing.
Links.
Very, very similar to Vermont, right? Which surprised me when I saw it, because I would have expected to see something a little bit different, but okay. Then let's look at some of the larger cities, right? So let's look at a place like California. Right there. So this is the 25 to 44-year-olds. And I think we see something kind of similar. That looks like the whole US chart, right? Okay. And then what about New York? New York, it was a little bit different.
It's really spatial.
Yeah, so you see
than
New
before.
York. I mean, to me, this almost seems like what I'd expect to see for the whole country, right?
Yeah.
Like what I'd
That's
want
more
to see,
explain
right?
the
Yeah.
stories, right?
So you'd see that there is like last year, the big jump, but then this year we're doing a better job. So something they're doing in New York seems to be helping. But let's have a look at New York 25 to 44. Seems to be a little bit of a different story, right? Although this year is still a little bit underneath.
Yeah.
So I'd love to know what's happening in New York. Obviously, we don't know where the deaths are coming from, but something is a little bit different in New York, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So those are those. Then if we want to have a look here, we're also going to see some things that have come out. So this is the site where I got that, usmortality.com. And you can actually go there. Anybody's interested, you can go to this website and you can basically choose the filter. And you can choose whichever state you want. You can choose the age. It's very easy to find this information. Then the next thing I wanted to show is some other news that came out, which is, let's see if this thing will load. It says that the FDA reports, it's an Australian website, but they say the FDA report finds that the all-cause mortality was higher among vaccinated people. Now, again, we're not saying the vaccine did this, and it's actually noticed here that they say, look, none of the deaths were considered related to vaccination. So we're not saying that this is because of the vaccination, but it does seem pretty interesting that what they find is from, if they look at the numbers, that all-cause mortality, so not just from COVID, but just people dying, is higher in the vaccinated group.
Oh, they separated the group.
But we should also explain that this does kind of make sense, right? Because who has the most vaccines? Which age group of people has the highest vaccination rate?
Elders.
The older people,
Yeah.
right? And older people are going to die more, so that should kind of happen.
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then also if we look at the UK data, we see something similar, right? So this is weekly mortality per 100,000 people. The solid red line here is the vaccinated death
UK.
rate. And then the solid blue line is the unvaccinated. And then I think the projected is these lighter colored lines. So again, we should see that there should be more people dying who are vaccinated because they're older, right? That makes sense. Okay, good. Then, so the question I want to ask you guys is, let's go back to that initial question. How does it look like the people in charge of our health are doing?
I mean, it's important to find there is a correlation, but it's important to find the causality. So like you said, perhaps they are doing a good job, but because most elders are vaccinated, so the natural death rate is higher among those groups. So actually they are doing fine, but but the other chart shows that the age between 25 to 44
doesn't look so good, right?
Yeah. Okay. So, interesting. So, okay.
So I agree with you. So we don't know exactly what's happening, but I mean, if I go back to some of those pictures that I was looking at, right? So just looking at like the total US, we go back to it. The blue line worries me.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
compared to the past, you
Yeah.
should be doing. You already put some effort, so the data should be better, right?
Sure. And if we say a nice like conditional here, it's like if you're learning,
Yeah.
it should be improving.
Yes.
But if I look at that doesn't look like it's improving.
The probably means something happens, something new, like we don't know, so they didn't take any actions,
Okay.
or maybe they take some wrong actions. I don't
Possibly,
know.
right?
don't
And I
know.
mean, we can expect that because
Yeah.
they're not perfect. People are learning.
Yeah.
But this thing has been going on for a while now. And for me, just my own personal opinion, that worries me. I'd like to see the opposite. I'd love to see that blue line underneath the green line, especially after this amount of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
right? Okay, so we're kind of in agreement there. Great. So what about what's currently happening? So right in the beginning, in that little intro I did, we talked about Omicron. Okay. So what's been going on with Omicron? So obviously, I think most people have heard that it seems to be relatively mild, right?
Yeah.
Which is great. I've even heard that no one really knows, but I've heard that if you're vaccinated, it might be asymptomatic, and if you're unvaccinated, it might just be mild.
Yeah.
Which is good news, right?
Yeah. Some people think it might be like flu.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the interesting thing is that earlier in the week, it seemed like it had come from my country, South Africa, whereas now it doesn't really look like that. I think, let's see if this is right. Yeah, you can see this from the news, right? The Omicron variant was in Western Europe days before it was first identified in Southern Africa. Yeah. So that's also interesting to see that it might have come to South Africa rather than have come from, but nobody knows, right? Then if we look at the other country, which is right next door to South Africa, Botswana, they had their first cases, okay? And their first cases were found in fully vaccinated diplomats. So it looks like, from what they were saying, that people actually came into their country and who were fully vaccinated, and they might have brought this variant into Botswana. Possibly, right?
Even you vaccinated, fully vaccinated. Fully
Fully vaccinated
vaccinated.
diplomats, yes. And they're not saying which country it came from, but that's what it looks like, right?
Oh.
Okay. So if we've got, I don't think people really care too much where it came from anymore, because right now it seems to be in so many countries that it's just not important anymore. But I think what we can see is that it looks like it is in people who are vaccinated. So we don't know the true numbers yet, but we can see that it does seem to be happening in vaccinated people. All right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I've also heard that I think that a lot of the people, and there aren't that many yet, but some of the people in the US who had it as well were also vaccinated people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think vaccinated people just, the vaccine just help prevent severe symptoms, lower the death rate. But even if you're vaccinated, you can still carry the virus.
And you can still get symptoms. If we're talking about Delta, we did a video which came out yesterday, right?
Yesterday?
Yeah, the one we did with Emma. So last week we showed Boris Johnson talking to people and saying, listen, you need to get your third shot.
Yeah, booster.
Okay? And what he said in that video was that he said it would be a shame if people who'd done the right thing and gotten 2 doses got seriously sick or lost their lives because they didn't get the third. Which is what I think people are realizing, is that the effectiveness of the vaccines does seem to drop even for getting symptoms and dying, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Then what's happening now? So we were talking about this and we're saying, right, we looked at the data and it doesn't seem like we're going in the right direction, right? We saw the blue line and the green line. So it seems like what they're currently doing might not be the best way, right? Because if it was a great way, the blue line would be under the green line.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what is the current way they are dealing with this?
If all the deaths is come from COVID-19, I think the strategy from government is like getting more people vaccinated,
right?
and the booster, maybe third or maybe fourth.
Okay. Is there anything else that these guys are doing to deal with this problem?
Lockdown.
Okay, so we've got the lockdowns. So if we look at that and we say, right, lockdowns and vaccines are the way they're doing it, but then we also look at it and say that, at least just to us from what we know, that doesn't seem to be that effective, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So do you guys know the expression in English, go back to the drawing board?
Go back to the drawing board?
Back to the starting point?
When an attempt seems to be failing, you go right back to the beginning and re-examine it and try something new.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think that would be a good idea here?
I think they are doing the thing right. They are doing the same thing like they tried to do at the end of 2020. Just like lockdown, vaccine.
Well, I can actually show you.
strategy.
So let's have a look at a quick video. So this is the guy from the UK, and you can have a look and see what you think of what he says.
CVI published its advice in the last hour. First, it advised that the minimum dose interval for booster jabs should be halved from 6 months to 3 months. Second, that the booster program should be expanded to include all remaining adults aged 18 and above. Third, that these boosters should be offered by age group in a descending order to protect those who are most vulnerable to the virus. So priority will be given to older adults and people over 16 who are at risk. Fourth, that severely immunosuppressed people aged 16 or above who've received 3 primary doses should now also be offered a booster dose. Finally, that children aged between 12 and 15 should be given a second dose 12 weeks from the first dose. I have accepted this advice in full. With this new variant on the offensive, these measures will protect more people more quickly and make us better protected as a nation.
I think
Yeah.
I think they might think if they don't do the action, the death rate might go higher.
Okay. So, but now they're saying every 3 months
Yeah.
people should get a vaccine, right?
Yeah, I think the basis of this theory, because there are studies about the effectiveness of vaccines declines dramatically, especially after 3 months, and it drops to like 1/10 after 6 months, comparing with like 4 weeks after you got the second shot.
Okay.
So I suppose that's the basis for these policies.
Sure, but it seems like if we're trying to put this in the simplest language possible, the answer now is just more vaccines,
Yeah.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But we looked at what's been going on, and a lot of these places, like we saw, either didn't have vaccines, like Idaho had a low number, or Vermont had a high number, and we saw very, very similar outcomes. So again, I'm not giving advice or saying what should or shouldn't happen, but it kind of worries me if we're trying one thing and, as we just said, it doesn't look like it's working that well. I mean, to be honest, it doesn't look like it's working at all because this year's worse than last year. And I think that the deaths this year have already, like even last week, had already surpassed the previous year. So more people are dying. The excess mortality is up. And yet our answer is just to keep doing the same thing.
Yeah, normally, like, if in our job, if you try something to fix a problem, but it didn't work. But if you still using the same one and keeping trying to fix it, I don't think it makes sense. You probably need to find another solution or some option, or to adjust the original
Solution.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that I agree with that. I mean, so that's where I was trying to go with this is let's just imagine for a minute that we were involved. And again, this is not our advice. We're not telling anybody what to do or saying what should happen, but we're just having a discussion about it. Like, what other treatments or things could we do? You know, what could we add?
I mean, another solution?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have people who, you know, who got better pretty quickly. Joe Rogan, we've talked about Joe Rogan. Now, Joe Rogan took a whole lot of different medicines, and we don't want to single any out because YouTube will get pretty upset if we talk about certain ones, right? But the one I think we can talk about is monoclonal antibodies, which are being given free to people in Florida. And I think that, I mean, we can just check it here quickly. Let's have a look at Florida. Yeah, Florida COVID. And Florida COVID, you know, I mean, who knows what's going to happen later? I mean, it's just because it's down now doesn't mean that it won't go up again later, right? But they are giving monoclonal antibodies to people, and it's anecdotal evidence, but the people that I've heard about who took them have reported feeling much better in like 12 hours. Like that happened with Tim Pool, I think it happened with Joe Rogan. So we could perhaps try and expand that treatment as well as vaccines.
How about India? I'm curious about India.
India, let's have a look. It should pop right up because...
Just here.
Okay, India COVID.
See? From June, so it's already like half a year, 6 months.
Sure.
So quiet.
So India is very interesting, right? I don't really want to talk about why or anybody's things because
before
we might
everyone's image is like
Yeah.
India has problems. They can have
And where does Delta come from?
India, right?
India,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, so it is interesting to see, but I don't want to get into that because we don't want to talk about things that people, might want to ban us for.
But you can image like
you can have a look into that yourself and see if India is doing anything different to anywhere else. Another interesting one to look at would be Japan. Right? Japan. Let's see, Japan COVID. And wow. I mean, look at that. 113 cases. Plus, we're going into winter, and I heard they had a whole lot of snow and things, so that's really interesting, right? So, I mean, Japan is definitely doing something.
Yeah.
I also heard about Bangladesh.
Bangladesh. That's a country.
Yes,
Yeah.
Bangladesh. Let's see.
What's it in Chinese? Bangladesh.
Do you know
what it's
better?
in?
Bangladesh, 孟加拉.
Oh, I see.
So let's see Bangladesh. Again, really doing pretty well, right?
Yeah, Bangladesh.
So let's see. Let's have a look at their vaccinations as well. I mean, so they've got some, but only fully vaccinated 22% of people. So they're doing a really good job. They are vaccinating, which is great. I mean, vaccines. Everybody likes vaccines, but the results are really good.
Yeah, maybe we can reference to those
We
countries,
could learn something, right?
right?
And then if we compare this, I mean, let's just look at like US. I mean, it's getting a little bit better there, but still not like what we saw with Japan or India or
trend
Bangladesh or
different.
anything, right? Let's try choose another one. Some of the how about Netherlands? Because that
Netherlands.
was in the news a lot recently.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
the highest.
And again, we have talked about
In the
this on this
past.
channel before, just looking at their vaccination rate. I mean, it's pretty high. I think their adult population, I think it's like 88% if you look at just the adult
Yeah, adult.
population. Where else? I mean, Germany,
Australia.
also really, really high.
Yeah.
Austria?
Australia is
Austria
very
or Australia?
The
There's Austria, but look, they've got that lockdown, so the lockdown seems to be doing something.
okay.
This
Right.
is Austria.
Austria, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Austria.
Yeah, they've got
Oh.
a very, very strict lockdown, and I think that they're mandating compulsory vaccines for everybody by 1st of February.
Everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
Wow.
Which is
Wow.
interesting. Abby, you wanted Australia, right?
Australia.
Oopsie, my typing is not good. Australia COVID over there. Yeah, so it's going down, but it's still not, I mean, compared to what it was earlier. So something's happening there. All right, good. So we just talked about monoclonal antibodies. What else do you guys think? Like, if we're putting on our hats just from lay people who aren't involved in medicine, what else do you think we could do?
What else we could do? I think pharmaceutical is trying to develop a new treatment. Just if you get vaccine, but if you get COVID, they're gonna help you to lower the symptom to relieve.
Sure. So I know that
so-
Merck's got one coming out. Pfizer's got one
Pfizer
coming
also,
out.
Isarray also
Okay.
developing.
Sure. So, but that to me is kind of like once you get it, what about, this is a contentious one, but early treatment? I mean, well, we just talked
Prevention?
about that, I suppose, the monoclonal antibodies, early treatment. But what about even before that? What about health?
You mean like a immune system?
Yeah, what about preventative healthcare, right? I mean, because getting out in the sunlight, in the fresh air, doing some exercise, eating a good diet with fruit and
Yeah.
vegetables, vitamin C, vitamin D.
Yeah.
I mean, I know not everybody
food.
believes like vitamin D helps, but what do you guys think?
Yeah,
I think if you
it really helps.
if you're healthy,
Yeah.
surely you'll
Yeah.
fight off a disease a lot better, a lot more
Yes,
quickly,
yes.
right?
Yeah,
All kind of disease.
Yeah,
right?
logically, yes.
Sure.
But it might be hard to like rebuild the health condition of the whole society in a short period of time.
I agree with you, but I'd take you right back though to this. I don't like to see this, and if we've got to make some changes, I'm sure if we had a collaborative effort from a lot of people in society, you know, people are capable of doing amazing things when they put their minds to it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like a para-risk solution. They
Yeah.
can do more specific coronavirus treatment, but you also can improve your immune system at the same time.
Sure. I mean, how about trying to do all these things? Anything that
Yeah.
has a potential benefit, right? How about trying to encourage people to get in the sun, encourage people to exercise and eat well, provide guidelines for people about how to eat well, provide vitamins. I think it's in India where they've provided people with a pack of different medicines and also vitamins and things, but I'm not sure, but I think I read about that. Also, if you get sick, the monoclonal antibodies plus vaccines. I mean, all this stuff. Why not throw everything we can at this instead of this one major thing, just vaccines, right? And again, this is not saying what
like
should happen. It's just my opinion, but
You
why
mean
not?
like a cocktail treatment? Just like
Yeah.
in addition to vaccine, we also provide other supports.
Sure. So if you do get sick, monoclonal antibodies early. Before you get sick, stuff to help you build your immune system. I mean, surely even if we take COVID out of the picture, helping people to be healthier, you know, by vitamins and good food and exercise, it's just a great benefit for society anyway.
Yeah.
I think our government already have this kind of a guideline to everyone. Like you should eat like 5 colors of vegetables, and you should take some
Yeah, like
minor
three times exercise per week, every time over 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So in normal times, that's suggested to people.
Yes.
But now in extraordinary times, surely that should be suggested more.
More
And-
stronger.
And explaining to people, because I see a lot of people, like we talked about the other day, in the gym still wearing masks. I mean, we got Taiwan.
Or even they are afraid
Yeah.
of going to the
Yeah.
gym.
So we have 0 local cases. I haven't seen a local case in ages, but yet people are still wearing masks in the gym. And I'm not judging them, because when I see those people, I realize these people are scared. And if you're scared, why then the government should be trying to say to you, hey, listen, here's information. And if we're normally telling you about exercise, we're going to be telling you a little bit more now because it's an extraordinary time. It can hurt.
Oh yeah, I know lots of people are afraid of going to gym or going outside recently, but if the government strongly encourage them, like say, hey, just do the exercise, just work on the sun, take some bath, they all also help your immune system. I think those people gonna change their mind a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And if you had to, like, I mean, with the masks in Taiwan, they said on your health card, if it was an even or an odd number,
Yeah.
then you could do different things on different days. So if you were worried about too many people getting out at the same time, you could even do 3 or 4 numbers and say, hey, you know, once or twice a week, we're going to have a way for you to get out and get into the sun. Why not? For people who wanted to, not force them. We don't want to force anybody, but why not just let people know that that could be beneficial to you? I can see that hurting. So let me show you one other thing quickly. This is actually from Gavin Newsom, who is the governor in California. And where was it? Hold on, let me have a look. He was talking about the virus actually being seasonal. Yeah, here. We know why, because of the seasonality to COVID, Newsom said. It's not particularly difficult after a couple of years to understand. You see those trends in Europe, you see those trends extend in other parts of the globe. Unfortunately, that's what's happening here.
I mean, they're just like a flu.
It looks like it's seasonal. We're not saying it's seasonal, please. We're just saying it looks like it, and a politician here has said he also believes it's seasonal. So if this is going to be endemic, if this is going to be something that comes back every year, surely we need to find another way to deal with this or change our protocols, right? Now, some people I think are mistaken. They believe that viruses always get weaker with time, because that's been in the news, and it is true that viruses sometimes do, but it also happens the opposite way. So flu is a good example. We haven't gotten rid of the flu, and some years you get a really bad flu, right? But what do we do when that happens? Like, there are vaccines available for anyone who wants them. They can go and get them. Nobody ever gets forced. I think there was a Tamiflu, some kind of medicine that came out once. But in general, we seem to be able to deal with these things okay, right?
I think if it's me get flu, before I get flu before. I feel really sick, but the doctor will give me some medicine to lower the symptom. Then I gotta take a rest at home, like 3 days. I deal with my immune system. I drink a lot of water. I eat vitamin C, B, and
Sure.
just do it by myself.
Yeah, I mean, I normally take some vitamins, but now that it's more of a risky time, I've added in some D. I've added more C. Just because I think, especially we're in winter now, it just seems to be better, right? Because obviously in winter you get less sunlight, and in winter is when you get sick more. And people are becoming more, I would say, knowledgeable about viruses, just because of COVID, right? Now we've learned that the viruses never disappear. They're always there.
Yes.
So why do we get sick more in winter? Because our immune systems get weaker in winter. We're more susceptible, and it must be to do with light and the sunlight. So,
but just wait a minute. But it's not the case in Australia, because Australia in the southern part of the globe, and
actually, that's a very good point. Yeah. So I've heard some people talking about this, and a good one to go back to is Florida again. So it also looks like it's when people are indoors. So people in Florida don't have much of a winter. So when are people in Florida indoors? During summer, when they're there for the AC.
Oh, you mean they don't have time to go out?
Sure, and if you look
because they
here,
locked down?
look at their big spike. It was in the late summer months.
Okay.
So I'm not saying, again, please don't, I'm not saying that that is true or anything. I've just heard people talking about this and saying that actually a lot of the time when people get sick, I think even the ex-governor of New York, Cuomo, I think that he also was talking about this, saying it looks like when people are stuck inside, the air is recirculating, and that's when people get sick. Plus, when you're inside, you're not getting sunlight.
Yeah.
So it could be, right? But again, we're not doctors, so we're not saying what is true or not. But if this thing, and where we were going with this, if this thing is seasonal, surely we're going to need to find, I mean, with flu, we seem to have a way to deal with it. Some people die, sure, but we have a way to deal with it. We've learned to live with it. Isn't that what we need to be doing now?
That's a really actually very interesting point, because at the beginning of the COVID, some people proposed a theory of like collective immunity. So
herd immunity.
So basically it means if enough people got COVID once, then it's much harder for COVID to spread in the society. So basically that's in that case, the government doesn't need to do anything. They probably need to prepare more ICU capacities for severe symptoms patients. But beside that, the government doesn't need to do anything. But I feel this time the government might want to do too much to
possibly
control. Right? Yeah, because it's just another form of a flu than
I think, well, it's a different type of virus, right? So flu is an influenza virus. But from what I understand, with respiratory kind of viruses, this is very hard to do. So that our bodies have actually learned a different way of dealing with them.
But the scientists and the CDC, they're also saying the COVID is like fluization. So
I think it's
becoming more and more like
more
and more like flu, like a flu. So perhaps the old way that we treat flu could work in nowadays.
Sure. Well, what do we do for flu? We offer vaccines to people who want them, and then we just try and treat people, right? So maybe that is a way, and maybe we should add, like we said, add to that, because I suppose COVID might be a little bit worse than flu from the numbers, so maybe add in the monoclonal antibodies if people need them. And then it's about scale, right? If they're giving these monoclonal antibodies to more people, we'll lower the price once you develop scale. And then also get people to be healthier. I mean, not force them, but try and educate people as to how they can help their bodies to fight things better.
Yes. And I think that's an interesting idea, because we believe like a herd immunity works before, right? We think if we get more people maybe they already get virus, COVID-19, or like a vaccine, they all means they have the immune system. So more people get protected, like they are ready. So slowly the virus gonna disappear, right? But since the this kind of ideas doesn't work now, because we can see lots of cases spread all over the globe, and lots of people get a vaccine, but it still couldn't stop it, right? So I think the herd immunity is not really realistic now.
Sure.
Because just like a flu, it's mRNA virus. It can change into different variants. So like you say, it's better to improve our immune system to against all kinds of virus, not just only target one thing.
Yeah. Which is the thing that I think is strange for me, when I just see them doubling down. It's like now every 3 months, because it started off with the vaccine, was like you won't get it, then you won't spread it, then that changed, then you won't get symptoms, now that's changed. And I think now they've said that actually the standard vaccine dose is now 3. And then you're going to need boosters. And I think Israel might be on the 5th dose now, possibly. Yeah, I think so, right?
Wow.
And I think what Germany is saying is that your vaccines are going to expire after 9 months. So even if you're fully vaccinated, you're going to need to keep having more to be considered. But then the other thing is, think about this economically.
Okay.
So if these vaccines, if the efficacy goes down after a certain time period, not everybody's having the vaccine at the same time. So you're going to have some people whose protection is dropping while other people's protection is high. And now you're going to need every 3 months. Who is going to do this? How are you going to keep doing it? Who's going to pay for it? Who are the people who are going to administer all these vaccines to everyone in the world every 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or whatever it is? And then you've also got to keep a database of these things. It just seems logistically to be almost impossible to really do this very well.
And it seems like it probably gonna be forever. You're gonna take a vaccine.
Yeah.
Because every 3 months it's gonna decrease in why. So you can.
Sure. And then it seems like there are some people who are just never going to have the vaccine or really don't want to. So what are you going to do eventually with them if they don't listen? I mean, I've heard now they're talking about putting people in jail. So now you got to also start having a higher prison population and all this logistics and all these vaccines and stuff. It just seems to be a very difficult solution to implement going this way. And that's why I said to you guys earlier, going back to the drawing board, at least for me, just purely opinion, seems like, hey, let's just re-examine our assumptions. Let's look at all the tools available. And I think that for most people, if they saw these people in government throwing everything they can, not saying you can use this one, you can't use that one, but saying, hey, listen, anything that seems to work, let's let people use it. Let's give people that freedom. I think you get a lot more people going along with them and saying, okay. But instead, it's just one thing. It's just one way of doing this. And we saw earlier that the blue line and the green line, like what do they want me to do now once I've seen that line? Do they want me to think, hey, these guys are doing a great job? Or we should vote these people out and choose someone else, right?
This is not building their credit. Nothing changed. Things are getting worse.
Sure. So, strange one, right? Really, really strange. And I think also interesting to look at it in this way.
Also curious about, is there any clue about what did New York City write? I mean, what did they do to bend the curve? And
I'm not sure because
because the trend is so different from the rest of the country.
Yes.
Sure, but you might say vaccines, but then you can find other places where high vaccines and it didn't do that.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw an article where someone did this. They showed like a whole lot of different places and they'd all done completely different ways and they couldn't find any real correlation between them. Some had heavy early vaccines, some had late vaccines, some had low vaccines, some had using different. Every strategy seemed to have a different outcome. So that's really interesting to see, right? And then I think on this document as well, no, it's not down, it's here. Yeah, you can see this, excess deaths per 100,000. And you can see that the red line is the vaccinated, the blue line is the unvaccinated. And look, it changes. So you don't see like a clear thing. And it seems like it's a very similar rate for both vaccinated and unvaccinated. It doesn't seem to make, from at least what I'm looking at, it doesn't seem to make some massive difference anywhere.
Yes. Just it didn't show like if you get vaccine, you're gonna have a higher protection.
Which is really a pity, right? Because I think vaccines have been amazing things for our society, right? Vaccines have really saved many, many lives and done some great things. It's really a pity that this one doesn't seem to have that same effect, right? Especially when we look at the blue line and the green line.
Yeah.
So again, I think going back, re-examining, maybe there's a bit of hubris involved with this. Maybe people don't want to accept that the way they've been doing it doesn't work. But I think if people saw that this was kind of, how would we say, that they were being live and they were looking at it and changing things and adapting the strategy more, we might look at this in a different way. But it seems that the only way they're adjusting the strategy is just making more vaccines at shorter and shorter intervals.
Yes. I wish a Taiwanese government or Taiwanese people can understand or see this kind of data, because they are calling for a booster in Taiwan now. But I don't know, maybe yeah, people can get booster, but I wish they can read this kind of information before they get booster.
Sure.
Just help them.
And I mean, I think if you want to have the booster, great, why not, right? If that's what you believe is going to help you. But how many people know about anything else besides this? And for me, the government's job should also be to inform people.
Yeah, to let people know.
And I don't see that really happening. I just see a lot of fear porn. I see people like putting articles, making everybody feel scared, and just pointing them at one solution the entire time.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense for me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and if they want people like me and other people to trust them more, they should show us that they're acting in a trustworthy way. And from my humble opinion, just me, I don't see that. And I'm allowed to have my own opinion. That's got nothing. I'm not saying what should or shouldn't happen, but I have my opinion by looking at what these people are doing, and I don't feel reassured. I don't feel better. So, yeah, that's why I asked in the beginning, do you feel afraid again? So, you know, I think a lot of people do,
lots of
right?
people are really afraid of it.
All right, so should we move to our next topic?
Okay.
All right, great.